Welcome to the Education Marketing Leader podcast with Chris Raposo. If you're looking to dive into the latest industry insights, draw inspiration from education success stories, or just want to sharpen your marketing skills, you're in the right place. Here, we bring you a diverse range of voices from experts and leaders in the field, offering you a unique blend of professional development and practical strategies. Whether you want to understand your audience better, stay updated with the latest tech trends in marketing, or expand your professional network, we've got you covered. So while you're driving on your morning commute or winding down after a busy day, let's explore the dynamic world of education marketing together.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Education Marketing Leader. Today's episode is on short form video that actually works. Today's guest is Rob Clark. He's the creator of That Tall Family, founder of Tall Family Media, and author of Growing Your Influence in 4 Billion Views. Rob, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Chris. I'm very excited to be here.
Always good to speak to you,
Yeah.
my friend. I love the books. I read them both last fall, so really appreciate you sharing your knowledge there. Of course, obviously, That Tall Family, very popular with 4 billion views. We also collaborated on a webinar on short form videos for higher education, and really excited to learn a little bit more of That Tall Family Media that you recently started after leaving Greenville University in Illinois. So Rob, like I said, you built your brand that crossed 4 billion views. That's insane right now, if I could say so myself, because I've been out on YouTube Shorts. I get like maybe 1,000 views, and I celebrate that. So 4 billion views is stratospheric. But beyond the uniqueness of your family, what's the core short form video strategy higher ed marketers should focus on in 2026?
Yeah, this is something that I will still hammer on is that with higher ed, we let me phrase it this way. I think how we learn as human beings is always going to adapt.
Mm.
And so right now, we're still caught up, and especially higher ed. And I'm a higher ed guy. Like I love my experience. I still think there's a ton of value there. And so I got a master's degree. And so I'm not against higher ed, but I do think we're in a transition where it's time to evolve. And in the past, what it used to be is we would come and we'd sit under professors that were really knowledgeable, and that worked really well. But as things change and as information is so easily available to all of us at our fingertips, it's time for some evolving there. And I don't think it's necessarily a brand new thing, it's in addition to. And so social media is no different. And so what we need to do on social media is we need to understand what works. Because there's no, like, you could read my books. Funny enough, talking about my books, I actually just pulled down both my books because I got a new one coming because I think it's even better. And so some of the information is so outdated. And I love books because I love reading books, and that's how I learn. But there's a little bit like things move so fast
Yeah.
because and so social media, this is what schools, if they could take away this is, you could shut the podcast off after this. Don't do it, but you could. Is you got to figure out what works. And so the only way that you can do that is quantity over quality. And so quality does matter. And
Yeah.
so, but when it comes to social media, we don't get to decide. And at the end of the day, if your goal as a higher ed institution is for students to know about you and then therefore eventually come and be a student at your school, is you got to figure out how are they going to consume content about your school. And so this is where if you could, throw darts at a dartboard, the more darts you throw, the closer you're going to get to the bullseye. And that's exactly what social media is. Throw a bunch of darts, and eventually you're going to figure out, okay, this is what students are resonating with, and let's do more of that. Let's put money behind that. Let's run ads against that. Let's create more of that content. But what I feel most places, they want to stick to a formula that they've been using for a long time, and they're not willing to try new things.
Yeah, sticking to a formula even though it doesn't work. But I love what you say, and you kept repeating that all the time, right? Quantity over quality, but quality comes from quantity. If you put in the reps, You had a video the other day in your gym. It's like at the gym, right? You suck at the beginning. It's hard. You feel off. You feel awkward. You don't know what to do. But as you put the reps in, you get better at it, and you can adjust and feel like what works and what doesn't work. And another thing you said in your book, 4 Billion Views, which I'm glad I bought before you pulled it, is talking about, it's football season. We're going into the playoffs. It's like an athlete that watches film the day after the game or the week, a couple of days after the game. Go into your analytics, see what works. Don't stick to the schedule that you build out for the next 3 months. See what works. What do people resonate with, and then
Right.
double down on that. So I really love that advice.
And that's so important that you brought that up. And just like in sports, speed uh, covers a lot of mistakes.
Hmm.
If you're not good at something, but you're the fastest on the court or the
Yeah.
fastest on the field, you can get away with a lot of mistakes. And the same is true with social media. And this is why I think most of us, especially higher ed, it's just the concept. If you take a test,
Hmm.
um, you don't get rewarded for creativity. You get rewarded for the right answer. And so that's when it comes to social media marketing, is that there is not necessarily a right answer. We have to be willing to take the failures.
Hmm.
And that's where I think a lot of schools are afraid. They're afraid to put content out there that just bombs. They're afraid to seem like they're gonna, like, if we put this content out, people are gonna view us this way.
Hmm.
Where we got to get down to speed. And I know a lot of schools, and I understand why you do it, because you have to do social media. It checks a box, but you want to spend as little time as you can on it. And so you do schedule stuff out because you're trying to be efficient. So let's schedule out the next 3 months worth of posts.
Yep.
But you don't know what's going to happen next week in culture and how that should affect the content that you're creating. And so, especially 3 months down the road. And so there are people that are creating content that is so, and if you have kids, you know this all the time. Kids will say, it's like, oh my goodness, I can't believe they're doing that trend. That is like so last week,
Yeah.
and because it moves so fast. And if we're 3 months behind, we're going to lose a little bit of relevance, because now all of a sudden they're like, okay, we saw this a long time ago. It's like, come on. And so all that to say, speed is another, if we're thinking about words today, we got to think about speed, because on social media, you can come up with an idea, create it, and post it within an hour. That's easily doable. Instead of thinking like, okay, how are we going to schedule out for the next 3 months? It just doesn't work.
Yeah, I hear the phrase death by committee all the time when it comes to higher education, right? And then also are learning about the trends that from your book, that like if they're, so, sometimes those videos go viral because they have a trending song that's really hot right now. That is what's trending. But if that life cycle of that song maybe a week or so, right? If you put it out in a
Yeah,
month, it's over. You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
what's that song? That's that song, $1 Million Baby, I think it's called, or something like that. It was really hot a couple of months ago, and you saw it everywhere, man. You saw it
Yeah.
on a commercial, you saw it on social media, and it's fizzled out. It's gone again.
Yeah. It moves quick. It moves quick.
It moves so quick. What
Yeah.
about finding those trends? So I'm a YouTube Shorts guy, but I know that I think a YouTube Short is like a month. Those videos pop up a month after it was trending on TikTok. So is
Yeah.
TikTok the place where to find those trends, or where do you find them?
Yeah, as of right now, and things could change so fast, but the TikToks are the place where you find the trends. Now, this is where just knowing the platforms gives you a little bit of an edge, where
Hmm.
you can find a trend today on TikTok, and if you're going to make that trend, do it on TikTok right away.
Hmm.
But it is 2 to 3 weeks behind before you start seeing it pop up on Instagram, and
Right.
another month or two possibly before on YouTube. Trends on YouTube aren't as important because, like you said, they're evergreen. YouTube is going to
Hmm.
keep putting your content out. Uh, I, I have content that gets pushed out a year after I posted it. And I love that about YouTube.
Hmm.
So you do have some time on some of the platforms, but especially on TikTok, you got to move fast, and you got a little bit, probably up to a month on YouTube or on Instagram and Facebook after the fact.
Hey everyone, I hope you're enjoying the episode so far. Quick break to tell you about my new book that I co-authored with Rob Clark called The Attention Gap: Why Great Schools Stay Invisible and How to Fix It. We wrote it for higher ed marketers, enrollment leaders, and anyone trying to reach students in today's noisy, scroll-happy world. It's built from 130 plus episodes and conversations with higher ed leaders from this show, plus Rob's experience growing That Tall Family to over 4 billion views online. We unpack why the old marketing playbook isn't working any longer and what you can do about it instead to fix that. If your team is serious about closing the gap between great programs and real visibility online, this book is for you. Grab your copy of The Attention Gap today on Amazon. And now, back to the episode.
Okay, so let's say you have a trend on TikTok. You want to capitalize on that trend. What if you take that trend when it's really hot and you put it on Instagram? Would be one of the first ones to put it on Instagram or YouTube Shorts? Do you think it's going to get as much traction as it gets on TikTok, or how does
Yeah.
that work?
Yeah. And this is where it comes down to a little bit of you can squeeze a lemon to get every last little dropout. But
Hmm.
sometimes it's like, I know that if I were to time our content a little bit different, maybe we get
Hmm.
a few more views.
Yeah,
But there is a little bit of, okay, let's at the same time, let's not burn ourselves out. And
yeah,
so I'm okay putting it on Instagram and Facebook, realizing it may be early, but you get some credit there too, right? And
yeah,
especially a higher ed institution.
sure.
If you can be ahead of the trend a little bit, you do get a little bit of credit there.
Yeah,
And so sometimes you miss a little bit of the views. But there's so much back and forth right now.
yeah,
I tell everyone, if you create a piece of content, put it everywhere.
yeah,
Um, time after time after time again, we see one platform will crush, the other doesn't do well.
yeah,
And then vice versa. It's like sometimes we think it's going to crush on TikTok, but it's actually Facebook where it blows up. And so you just have to put your content everywhere. And again, think of this as the analogy. It's throwing the darts at the dartboard. If you can just throw a million darts, some of them are going to hit good scores. And so
yeah.
you have to be okay with that and just get as many darts on the board as possible.
I mean, I send you all sorts of shorts every time I feel proud of one, and you always give me the
Yeah.
thumbs up. Yeah, it's nice
Yeah.
storytelling and all that.
Yeah.
But sometimes I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, they do really well on YouTube. I'm gonna put it on LinkedIn, and then it just bombs on LinkedIn. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
Um, it's the platform. It depends on the audience, who's following you and whatnot. The nice thing about YouTube is I have no idea who watches my video. Even if they like it, I'm like, who liked my video? I have no clue who does.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
don't tell me unless somebody leaves a comment. And and the other thing is about the comments you all talk about. Use it, especially in nasty comments. Use it as
Yeah.
like analytics and what works, what doesn't work. What to if somebody has a question to build off of that and create more content from it. So
Yeah.
that's a really good idea
And,
there.
and something that I have found personally, and I've seen it on other accounts, is that if someone leaves a negative comment,
Hmm.
it's almost always more negative than I believe they want it to sound.
Ah.
And so often, many times, we'll engage with the negative comments, but I'm not trying to pick a fight with them.
Hmm.
It may be something that's like, okay, I understand your point of view. I'm sorry you feel that way. And most of the time, I'm saying like majority of the time, 80, 90% of the time, they'll comment again and they'll say something like, oh man, I was just playing, I was just kidding.
Ah.
And so we find even just being positive with the negative
Hmm.
comments often will lead to another positive comment most of
Mm.
the time. And then obviously sometimes people are just wanting to be jerks because they're having a
Yeah.
bad day or whatever it may be. But most of the time, it's if you're willing to engage with them. There's so many times where someone's like, "Oh, you took the time to respond to me,"
Right.
um, and it's like, "Yeah, of course." I mean, and then often we kind of turn those comments around.
Yeah, yeah, and then more comments, more engagement, more the algorithm
Yeah,
pushes it out for you as
yeah,
well. And the other thing is too, like you see some of the comments sometimes from businesses that are so generic, so PC. You're like, that's nobody likes those comments. But if you go in there as a real human and give some real
yeah,
feedback or give an explanation, it's reciprocated a lot better than a
yeah.
generic one.
Even let's think about higher ed. If we would just not try to be a sales guy all the time.
Right, right.
And so, for example, it would be great to hear higher ed respond to some people because some people say, "Oh, college is a scam." If someone
Mm,
were to come out and say, "Listen, college isn't for everybody.
right.
University may not be for you." Now,
Hmm.
it's still for a lot of people, and it's still a ton of value for some people, but not for everybody. And if a
Yeah.
school would just come out and admit that, hey, this isn't for everybody, and if it's not for you, best of luck, whatever you're doing.
Right.
That alone could, it's like, okay, now they're human beings. They're not just trying to sell us their product.
That's exactly right. Yeah, you got to give the explanation and then maybe give some of the social proof. Like for me, for example, when I made a career change, my Lord, man, I graduated from college as an adult learner. Everything changed. Like the doors opened because I had to have that degree to open the doors, like a key. I knew I had the ability. I knew I had the the know-how and just the energy and the drive. But I was like, dang it, man, I need this one piece of
Mhm.
paper to get me in, And once I got it, man, doors open. And sometimes some people, for certain industries they want to get into, they need that degree. And this is not a waste, This is just the name of the game these days, unless, some employers say, hey, college is no longer required. But if you want to be up in the room with the leadership and everybody has a master's, you kind of want to match that.
Yeah.
To get the respect, it's just how it is. But let's talk about length of videos. So YouTube, I'm talking YouTube Shorts because I'm on it, and you can talk TikTok because you're an expert there. But it used to be like 50, 60 seconds or less for YouTube Shorts. Now they upped it to 90 seconds. And me with storytelling, right? I'm trying to get up to 60 seconds, 90 seconds, but the attention span isn't there, right? So what's a good video length?
Yeah, so it's the perfect video length is as long as people are watching.
Hmm.
Meaning, if you can get people to watch for 8 hours, then make a piece of content 8 hours long. Obviously, that's very hard to do.
Hmm.
And so I always say start shorter than what you would expect
Hmm.
and at least get you some attention and get you in the door. And then from there, you can build. Um, and so I wouldn't put a necessarily a time frame on it. I would know the platforms. For example, like you said, YouTube's changed. Still for Instagram. 59 seconds or less is going to put you in front of more people. Having said that, 15 seconds will put you in front of more people than a minute. So it
Hmm.
really depends. I always say tell the story as short as possible with it still being a good story.
Hmm.
Sometimes you do have to be 30 seconds, 45 seconds, 50 seconds.
Yeah.
But whether we like it or not, the reality is the attention spans are short. And so the shorter the video, the better chance you have of somebody watching it. Now, what I love, and you're aware of this too, what's very practical, like on YouTube, is the shorter videos, you can actually link them to a related longer
Hmm.
video. And so the beauty of that is you can try to get them in the door with the trailer, and then hopefully they watch the longer video.
Yep.
And so I think other platforms will start to follow that as well. But the idea is that the short form is going to get people aware of you, and then a percentage of those people are going to be more interested, and they'll find your longer content.
Yeah, that's what I do with my podcast episodes. I repurpose them like 4 or 5 pieces that are,
Yeah.
through this Riverside app. They give me automatic short form videos. I push them out there, and then I link them to the long form video there. And I think it's at least it's you putting it out there instead of just having that long form video sitting there and nobody's watching it. Get a little bit of views, a little bit of traction there. But you talk about winning the first 3 seconds a lot, and it's very important, right? For institutions that aren't naturally entertaining, what's the most common mistake you see them make at the start of a video, and what should they do instead?
Their logo. I'm seeing this so often with companies and schools. The first 4 seconds is their spinning logo and their school colors, opening, one direction or
Right.
something, and nobody cares.
Hmm.
And
So true.
so we need to understand that nobody cares who we are. It's about them. And so it's very egotistical, right? People only care. We only watch what entertains us. We only share what resonates with us. So all that to say is like we got to understand the first 3 seconds have to be about the viewer. And
Hmm.
so, and it's just the thing about it. We don't need to have the logo. If they're watching our content and if they stick around, the logo's in the profile anyway.
Right.
Our school name is in the handle, and so it's all right there. But we got the first thing is we got to get them to watch our video. Otherwise, it doesn't matter. And so give up on the logo, give up on the little intro that looks cute. It's actually hurting the school.
Yes, I've seen it a lot because for my job, I review YouTube channels for institutions, and you got the nice little jingle at the beginning, the drone shot. and then a student saying, "Hello, my name is such and such. I'm in the nursing program." 10 seconds are gone, right? You're like,
Yeah.
nobody's going to watch that, right? Should probably start with the outcome in mind. What do the audience want? This school helped me get this dream job that I wanted. Hey, my name is
Right.
such and such. I got it from this institution or whatever. Like you said, earn the first 3 seconds, but what are your thoughts on? I see a lot of videos and commercials right now on animated videos, like people jumping over buildings and stuff like that, or a plane comes flying in, and then all of a sudden, that person appears on the
Right.
screen. Like these shock moments. Would you say people should utilize it at universities, or is this just something for personal use?
Yeah, no, I would say yes. And
Yeah.
so right now I would consider them the same as trends.
Hmm.
And I talk about this all the time because I love it and I regret because we lived in Illinois and we never made it to Judy's Cafe,
Hmm.
which is in Illinois because we now live in the Nashville area.
Yeah.
But Judy's Cafe, if you just search it online, Judy, I don't know, I don't want to guess her age. She's older. She's not young. Let's put
Yeah.
it that way.
Yeah.
And she has a cafe in small town Illinois, the middle of nowhere, and she used that where she would take a trending video and then she would splice it, and then the last half would be Judy. And so, and I think it's her daughter that's doing those. So I don't think Judy came up with it, but Judy's crushing it.
Yeah.
And, she comes in, she's like, "Hi, I'm Judy. I have a cafe. I have the best pancakes." And
Yeah.
that's the whole thing. And she's blowing up on social media. She's selling merch now. And so she used that trend very well. And actually, I was talking to someone just about a half an hour ago about this. Social media, we need to understand that it's a tool and we can't treat it so personal. And I think schools are often guilty of this. Like we'll say things like we have to keep our brand aligned. And so a
Mm.
lot of times when we say that, we're thinking it's the logo, it's the sound, it's the colors.
Right.
Um, but that's just not true. The brand isn't our logo. Our brand is what people think of us. And I would say if they don't know you exist, then you don't have a brand. And so schools may not want to be as playful as Judy's Cafe, but you can still use that trend in a way that fits for your school. A lot of schools take themselves way too serious, right? And so the school doesn't look fun. It looks way too buttoned down. It looks too serious.
Mm.
And so, and maybe there's a couple schools, and maybe that's what you're going for. But most schools that I know and that I see, that's not their MO. They're not trying to be that Ivy League school. They're trying to be a school for the average, Joe or average Jane. So you need to be a little bit more playful. Don't take yourself as serious. So in a case like those trends, I would say, why wouldn't you jump on? And
Mm.
and if you're really afraid, then keep it just on TikTok, which is more playful.
Mm.
Now,
Mm.
if I was advising a school, I'd say I would share it everywhere. I would put it on Instagram. I would put it on Facebook.
Yeah.
I would put those trends because for whatever reason, we know that they work.
Yeah.
So if we watch them, if we consume them, why wouldn't we do what works, right? And so it's kind of almost like the best practices. And schools can have a little bit more fun with that. And now there is a line. There's some trends, like there's trends of songs that that have swears in them, and I wouldn't recommend a
Right.
school use that. I would say that's probably not appropriate for most schools.
Hmm.
There's trends that I personally don't use because we don't use swears,
Yeah.
and so there's things like you got to keep aligned with your values,
Right.
but there is a lot of trends that you can use that would get more attention to your school. And again, it comes back to social media as a tool. Do you want people to know about your school? And if so, why wouldn't you use these best practices?
That's right. And I wouldn't sleep on LinkedIn either with those videos.
Mm,
I'm heavily involved in LinkedIn. I see a lot of, schools very buttoned up, it's like a still frame image, just a picture sitting there, it's just logo on it. But the things that are trending now, the videos are the funny ones or the more entertaining videos out
yeah.
there, just to get your name out there, especially with the master's graduate students. If you want to reach them, LinkedIn is definitely a space for video as well.
Yeah, and it's going to continue to pick up. I think LinkedIn's one of those places where uh, a lot of people will go there, they'll try something once or twice,
Hmm.
and then it doesn't work, and they're like, "Ah, I'm not going to do it." And I know you're very active on LinkedIn, and LinkedIn is a place where you throw a lot of darts, but
Hmm.
those darts actually could be worth a lot more points when they do hit.
That's
And
right.
so they're not necessarily going to be as popular as you're going to be on Instagram or even TikTok. But you're right, when they do land, they're way more valuable. And so it's good to point that out because you're right. That's another place where schools don't operate that much, and they could be that could be a place where they could be unique and stand out even more.
Yeah. It's a very loyal audience on LinkedIn as well, if you have those folks, because putting somebody commenting on your post is gold because their connections see it as well, and then they kind of link up with you. So whatever you say is kind of like a reflection of what they feel and think. So for me, for example, I put I have some people would call it controversial. I have 31 Days in Proverbs series. Every Sunday morning I post a video of like for about a minute or so, right? And a lot of people that won't engage with it just because they know that their connections will see it and they want to stay neutral. But I get a lot of messages from people
Mhm.
about this series, saying to keep it up. People are watching even if they're never engaging with it. So if you're putting stuff out there, some people may never engage with it, but they'll see it and they'll be encouraged by it and may act on it as well.
Yeah. And I find that's a really good point. And I believe social media is this way that the more you can be honest about who you are, the better it's going to work for you on social media.
Hmm.
And so I think anybody that creates social media is afraid of losing people. And
Right.
so, but if you're true to who you are, because if you stay vanilla, meaning you're just going to try to go straight down the middle and try not to offend anybody. And we never try to be offensive, and I don't recommend trying to be offensive. Some people use that strategy. But if you actually are true to who you are, then
Hmm.
you might lose a few people, but
Hmm.
the people that do stick with you are gonna be so much more loyal. And
Hmm.
so at the end of the day, so schools would do themselves a great service if they came out and said, this is who we are and this
Hmm.
is who we are not.
Yeah.
And I think people trust that. Now you might lose a few followers, but again, the people that stick with you are going to go deeper. So at the end of the day, it actually serves you better.
Hmm.
And I see your stuff, and it even allows me to go deeper. And I recently too have put some stuff on LinkedIn where it's a leadership lesson, but it's something that came to mind when I was doing my morning Bible reading. And so I'd actually
Hmm.
take a picture of the Bible, and I know that not everyone engages with that,
Hmm.
but I do find that in that it actually picked up some new people that said,
Right.
okay, I do resonate with that. And that's
Hmm.
what a school wants to do. I would
Yeah.
say when it comes to social media, you want to know exactly who you are, and meaning that there has to be some people to say, this school's not for us. The
Yeah.
minute you start making content and people say, this school's not for us, I think the school's getting very close to being very good at marketing. Because the
Hmm.
minute you do that, then there's so many more people, it becomes clear. Because so
Yeah.
many colleges want to be so like, and you see it all the time, right? And it's not just colleges. We're picking on colleges here. I think most businesses do this, where they want to be so bland that they think
Hmm.
that everybody is the right fit for them,
That's
right?
right.
And,
That's
and so,
right.
but the minute you do that, then there's no flavor to you. And so
Right.
then it's hard for people to pick you out. Whereas, as we were talking, I recently did a podcast with a guy named Andy Elliott. And funny enough, is a friend of mine sent me a clip of his like a year ago, and I didn't even know who he was. And it was a video where he talked about, listen, if you work for me, if you don't have six packs, you're fired. Now,
Yeah.
listen, I don't have a six pack. I don't think I ever will. But what I loved about that, it was very clear
Very
of
clear.
I know exactly who works for him, right?
Yeah.
And so you either love that or you hate that. And so, but he's not going to waste time with people that's not the right fit for him. And
Hmm.
schools could do the same thing. If a school can get to a place where you know exactly what the school's about, then your admissions counselors aren't wasting their time on people that's not the right fit anyway.
Right.
Um, and so I think as any organization, especially schools, if we can be like, this is who we are and this is who we aren't,
Yeah.
I think marketing becomes much easier.
Oh, for sure. And you attract the mission fit students, which leads to retention, right? So they're not coming to your campus, and then it's like you see all the football players, they're just in it for the money, and then NIL, they enter the transfer portal, like Lagway just did for University of Florida. What the hell's going on, man? What about
Yeah.
loyalty? Can we stick around for a little bit and make the program successful again? But that's just the time that we live in. these days. Before I get off my soapbox, another thing I want to talk about, because we're a week before Christmas, a lot of people don't say Merry Christmas anymore, even though their core beliefs would support that. They don't want to offend anybody. What I've noticed, if somebody says Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and a Happy New Year, right? So you say the Merry Christmas, you say the Happy Holidays to include everybody else, not to exclude anybody. I know that people, at least they know what you stand for, and they'll respect it more often than not. And that's why you see the success of Chick-fil-A so much, right? It's not vanilla, it's not McDonald's or Burger King. It's like Chick-fil-A, we know what they stand for. They serve great food. They're not offending anybody. They're out there helping people. So it's just, you have your POV and you have your audience, and you want everybody to know what you stand for, and that's how you, I guess, attract more people, and some people fall away.
Exactly. That's exactly right. So that's the thing. We all, when you say Chick-fil-A, instantly you know who they are.
Hmm.
You can even picture what it's like when you're in their drive-through.
Hmm.
You know exactly what they're going to say to you after they give you your food. And so at the end of the day, they're very good at marketing. And so they
Absolutely.
went, and they have gone through some controversy.
Hmm.
And at the end of the day, I don't think it hurt them. They seem to be doing just fine.
Hmm.
And so I think any company that's willing to say, hey, this is who we are, and this is how we operate, I think there's 8 billion people on this planet. And so I think the closer we can get to like, this is who we would serve the best, and
Right.
especially if a school, and every school has its, its positives and its negatives.
Hmm.
And so, the school that I was at, part of the issue was like, hey, we're in Greenville, Illinois. We're in the middle of cornfields. Who wants to come here? And I was like, no, that's exactly the wrong way to think. I'm like,
Hmm.
it's amazing. We live in a Hallmark movie. It's
Right.
like, there's a lot. Now, there are students that are like, hey, I want to go to a city. I want to
Hmm.
live in a city. But there's a ton of students that would love to be in that Hallmark movie with a cute downtown where they could just walk anywhere they go. And so it's just being true to who you are and realizing there's enough people in this world to definitely make your school successful.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let's talk about your brand a little bit more. You built loyalty at a massive scale. So for institution without a single face or influencer, how can colleges create short form content that still feels human and relational rather than institutional with the logo and all that?
Yeah, no, I would hammer this all the time, and I haven't found a college yet that believes me on this, but I believe this with all of my core, is that the leader of the institution, which
Hmm.
most schools is the president, has to be active on social media. Um, and it's just true of whoever the leader is. And so I've been at several schools and I push it and push it and push it. And you do hear things like, well, we don't want it to be, the show of this president. And I'm
Hmm.
like, no, it doesn't have to be, but organizations do follow the leadership. And so
Yep.
the president, for good or bad, is going to lead that school. And so that leader needs to be platformed.
Yep.
And the personality has to be shown for good or bad. And it doesn't matter if they're a young president or if they're an old president.
Right.
The male, female, it doesn't matter. They should be on there. But also, there's so like everyone has their favorite professor. Like
Hmm.
any school, even the smallest of schools have a
Yep.
handful of professors that everybody loves.
Hmm.
Okay, chances are, this is another one. Chances are, especially at smaller schools. Now, when I think about schools, I think about smaller schools because I'm like the big schools, they're going to be fine. They're going to do what they're going to do. They got the $1 billion endowment, whatever.
Yep.
So I'm thinking about the small schools that are fighting for their lives. Is chances are everybody on campus knows the security guard or knows the janitor and they love
Hmm.
him
Hmm.
because he's probably every time I've known a security guard, they're the nicest people and they're the friendliest. They're the most helpful. They got some stories. So it could be all the way from the president creating content all the way down. And when I say down, but I'm just saying, the security guard might be the most loved person on campus, or the
Yep.
janitor that cleans up the gym after the big game. They might be the most loved. So, what would it look like to have content featuring them?
Right.
And even though they wouldn't know, let's just say Jeff, I don't know. So, Jeff, they don't know Jeff the janitor, but you know what? High school students, they love their janitor too.
Hmm.
And so
Hmm.
now all of a sudden they can say, we love our janitor. Listen, they love their janitor. He's a fun guy. And then all of a sudden they can see themselves being a student at that school. And so, and then of course there's students and there's coaches. Um, there's so many people, so it doesn't have to be. And that's the thing. Some people are like, well, I don't want to put everything on social media. It could, and we as a family that do a lot of social media, so little of our lives are online. I mean, we show people what we want to show them. And
Yeah.
so the same could be for anyone that you want to create content at your university. You can show them that much, but it just shows you, hey, this is a real place with real people.
Yeah.
Again, getting back to what we just talked about, some people are going to be like, that's not for me.
Right.
That's too campy. That feels too small. That
Mhm.
feels too buttoned down. Whatever it may be. But the more you can do of that and paint the picture of what your school is really like, then again, you're going to get the right fit. You're going to have better retention, better graduation rates. Everything's going to go up. So
Yeah.
all that say, if we, I would say if we could do the thing I love about social media is like if you're willing, you can actually show real life on there. And
That's
people
right.
love that more than anything else.
Yep.
And I still think we need to do the fancy videos. We need to do the drone shots. Yes, do all that as well. But social media allows you to show the real life, to go into the cafeteria. What does it look like in the cafeteria?
Mm.
Talk about the worst meal and talk about the best meal, right?
Yeah.
And get some people's real reactions on that. That kind of stuff will play better than, the drone shots. Even though I love drone shots, they look amazing
Yeah.
and they get good views. But
That's
people
perfect.
want to see real life. Okay, what does it look like when it's springtime and everyone wants to be outside the classroom? Go out, where are they playing frisbee at, or where are they playing that tennis golf at? Just go outside and just get the real life stuff. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to be overproduced. That stuff will do so well, and it's so easy and so quick. And
Yeah.
so, if we can get schools to understand that if we can show real life, they're going to win.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that idea of sharing the real people in there. Like, for example, in a lunchroom, right? There may be somebody who's been working there for 25 years. Who's that person that everybody loves, that everybody recognizes? Spotlight them a little bit, make it a little bit more human. And then I had a podcast episode with the president of Walsh University. It's a private Catholic university in Ohio, and the reason why I did this is because this guy is on YouTube everywhere. He's really entertaining. It's fun videos. Talks about um, there's all kinds of skits with his marketing team, and I had an episode of how get your university president involved in marketing, especially in video marketing, and he was so engaging. He was a retired Air Force fighter pilot before he became the president there. And then another thing I wanted to say before I switched jobs to Staymates, I worked at the Atlanta Tech Village in Atlanta for Hannon Hill. It's lots of venture capitalists in there, lots of entrepreneurs, but the one I remember the most was the janitor. Like you said, he cleaned everything, he filled up the food snack bars, and he barely spoke a lick of English. He just, yeah, but I talked to him all the time. He was from Mexico. We talked about soccer and stuff, just a little bit here and there as I passed him. And when I walked out, just so happens that when I left the building for my last day, went down the elevator, the door opens, this guy was there. I was like, oh man, hey, it's my last day today. He's like, oh, it's your last day. This is crazy. It was so nice to meet you. He was the only guy who would give me a hug when I left. It's crazy. Like, it's like these little
Yeah.
people, and I feel like they should spotlight this guy because he's so well known and liked by everybody else.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And every institution has those people. And that's, when I look back and sometimes universities, I think would be served well if they were to look back and try to figure, what are we actually selling?
Hmm.
And when I think back fondly of my college experience, it was those moments with people that shaped me. And of course, the classroom matters. What you learn matters. But that's
Hmm.
the cost of entry. Everyone's going to do that. And so, really, how much is the class at this university that much better than the class at this
Hmm.
university? Obviously, some yes, but for the most part, people are choosing a college on how they feel when they're there. And those people make a big difference. And this is a place where I think smaller universities can outperform. They can move quicker. They actually can have an unfair advantage because they could do a better job of telling those stories. And at the end of the day, and I hate this phrase because it feels so cliche, but people do want to be seen and known, right?
Hmm.
So instead of just saying that, let's show that. Let's show that. And so this is where colleges they could and universities could really benefit themselves if they were to lean into that, saying like, listen, we do great. Our nursing program's amazing. Our education, our engineering, like amazing, top notch. You're going to get a great job. But also while you're here, these are all the things that you're going to experience that how your life is going to be changed forever.
Right, right. So you successfully turn attention to real business outcomes. So for higher ed, when monetization looks like enrollment, reputation, affinity, what's the right way to think about ROI for short form videos for them?
Yeah, it's all about attention. It's not complicated.
Yeah.
It's like how to, because if people don't know about our school, then they can't attend our school. And so it's how do we get in front of the right people?
Right.
Now with social media, the good and the bad about social media is that it's shared to the world.
Hmm.
And so there's gonna be people that will not ever be a potential student that see your content. But also the best thing about it is that the world sees it. And
Hmm.
so right now, most universities love students from all over the world. And
Hmm.
so there's no other way to get in front of everybody. If you think about Google Ads or billboards or radio or magazines, whatever, all of that costs a lot more money. And so this is where a school can be very smart.
Yeah.
They can put content out there and they're going to see what resonates, and then you could turn those into ads. Uh,
Right.
Often this is, and it's just not smart. What a lot of companies or a lot of universities do is they hire a company and they say we need to get in front of X amount of people, and then they just put money behind it. And we've all seen the ads. They pop up in our phone, and we X off of them as quick as we can
Hmm.
because they're annoying to us. So instead of hiring a company to do that, and it's checking a box because no one is actually coming to our school because of those ads. And
Hmm.
if we create content that actually resonates with people, and so a school may get 5,000 views, 5,000 views, all of a sudden a video gets 25,000 or 500,000.
Hmm.
Okay, why did that happen? You could actually turn that 500,000 or a million, you could turn that viral piece of content into an ad because there's
Hmm.
something about it that resonated.
That's
And
right.
so that's why I love social media is that no other form of media can give you that kind of feedback
That's right.
because you know where they're coming from, you know who they are, you know their age, you know how long they're watching your content, you know when they're stop watching your content. So to be when you start thinking about the return on investment is figure out a way to make as much content as possible and then
Hmm.
find the stuff that works and then put money behind that. And so it's just going to be a smarter way to tell the world that you exist.
That's right. Like you said, if they don't know about you, they won't be able to attend you. It's like the simple principle like you shared with Judy's Cafe. People are driving miles and miles to go to her eat her pancakes. They wouldn't have known about her little place if it wasn't on social media going viral.
Yeah, and here's the big thing about that, and I think universities, this is an important takeaway. I trust that Judy has good pancakes, but chances are, I don't think they're the best in the world.
Right.
But it doesn't matter because people love this shared experience. And so the funny thing about it is, as human beings, for us, it's more about the experience. It's more about the emotion. And so Judy makes us laugh. So we're willing to drive 2 hours to eat pancakes that probably aren't as good as you would make at home. That's just
Hmm.
probably the truth. My guess is looking at her pancakes, I'm sure they're fine, but they're probably not world class, right?
Right.
Doesn't matter. We're going there because Judy is going to give us an experience. And this is where a school, if we could be honest with ourselves, the education does matter. It's a top priority, but most students are choosing a school because of an experience. And if we were able to show people an experience, and social media can do that like nothing else right now, they're going to have a huge advantage. Uh, People don't care at the end of the day how, and I don't even know, like, how do you rate schools? You can get in different magazines, and there's some, I think there's some pay to play in some of those things. But at the end of the day, it's experience. That's why people go to school. There's a reason why when Alabama became the best institution with football and the amount of students that started going there is
Hmm.
because it's an experience. They wanted to be a part of this
Right.
experience. Even people that didn't play football, they wanted to be at Alabama because they saw this experience. And so obviously you can't hire the best football coach in the world and have this number one program, but small schools can produce this experience that even Alabama can't. And so all that to say is that think about experience. How do we produce this and how do we show the world? And then I think if you can do that, you're going to get more students.
Absolutely. Last question for you. For marketers or creators who are trying to grow influence through video marketing in 2026, what's one discipline or habit you think that will make the most impact for them, especially as AI evolves and there's going to be fake videos out there and that stuff?
Yeah. So with everything changing so fast, AI is going to be very polished and it's going to be perfect.
Hmm.
And as human beings, we still want real. And so I think the real becomes even more important. And I'm playing around with it all the time. You just got to be willing to try. So even on my own stuff, it's like, okay, how do I be more polished and how do I be more real? I I still think that just walking, across campus, doing a selfie style video is probably going to do better than
Yeah.
that entire production company and the perfect
Hmm.
sound, the perfect lighting, because AI is going to be able to do all that perfectly. AI is not there yet, but it's getting there very fast. And then when that happens, there's going to be content at scale. There's going to be so much content out there. So you're going to have to be willing to be different.
Yeah.
And sometimes it won't work, and then sometimes it will. But when it does work, it's going to be very valuable. So I would say in 2026, figure out a way to put out more content, and try to put out content that is real as possible. So, so that means be willing with some mistakes.
Hmm.
And a lot of times we cut out the ums and ahs. I love leave those in.
Hmm.
If you make a mistake on a video, leave that in. If you're filming the college president and she messes up 3 times before she nails it, post the time she messed up 3 times. I think that kind of content where we just see people that are more like you and me is going to do better in 2026 than it ever has done before.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. Love that whole episode. Thank you so much for sharing that,
Thank you,
Rob.
Chris.
Tell us about that Tall Family Media and how people can connect with you.
Yeah, the best way, I mean, if you just Google us, we pull up everywhere, just Tall Family. But yeah, we're transitioning and we do the influencer thing still. But I still want to work with some businesses and some schools. We're gonna stay a small agency, because I find that when an agency gets so big,
Hmm.
that then you have so many clients, you treat them all the same.
Hmm.
And so we're in a fortunate spot and we love doing this. And so we don't want to do that. So we're going to have a handful of clients and that's it. So, because it's more fun to see them win, than just to try to, constantly bring new people in and then people leave because you're not giving them results. So all that to say, yeah, reach out to us at tallfamily.com or tallfamilymedia.com, or you can even text me. 618-818-8488. Like I've been putting my cell phone, it's my real cell number. I've been
Hmm.
putting it everywhere, and I have people texting me like, "Hey, I've been following you for 2 years. Can you help me?" I was on the plane 2 days ago, and I literally texted the entire time with this kid out in Virginia, and I'm hoping I can help him win. And so, if anyone wants to call or text, let's do it.
He does respond. I got his cell phone number too a couple of years ago. I felt very special
Yeah,
about that. So that
yeah.
was before he gave
So,
it out to everybody. So
yeah,
just for
yeah.
the
It
record.
was, it was.
Well, Rob, it's great to have you back. I'll be sure to tag you and that tall family in the recap and so people can find you easily. But it's always nice to talk to you and thanks so much for
Yeah.
sharing your insights.
Thank you so much, Chris.
You bet. All right.
Yeah.
Take care, my friend.
You too.
And that's a wrap for this episode, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in to Education Marketing Leader Podcast this week. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to share it with your friends and your network. And if you ever thought about starting your own podcast, now that you listen to one and you got inspired, reach out to me via DM. We'd love to help you launch your own. We'll take care of everything for you, the scripting, the strategy, the editing, the distribution. All you have to do is show up, connect with your audience, and build your personal brand. So if you're ready for it, let's chat. And for everybody else, we'll see you next time at the Education Marketing Leader Podcast. Take care, friends.